So my name is Megan Dixon, and I'm currently taking EDU585 at Georgetown College. I am working towards getting my ESL endorsement as part of my master's. I am here with Casey Browning, and she is the EL teacher at Klein Elementary School. Can you tell us a little bit about your role here?
Sure. So my official title is ELL Specialist for Campbell County Schools, and I work district-wide. My office is located here at Klein Elementary because this is where we have our most of our EL students in the district. So I'm kind of part director, part coordinator, and part teacher. So I have lots of responsibilities. So I provide professional development for teachers and resources that they need in their classrooms. I test all of our newcoming students and create their program service plans, make sure that all of our records are up to date and are following federal guidelines and state guidelines. I administer access tests every year and then distribute those results. And I also work with our students.
Okay, and so at Klein, you guys have just about 380-ish students, give or take a few.
Mm-hmm.
You're about 80% white students here, and you've got 22 ELL students currently enrolled for this upcoming school year.
Correct.
And so can you tell us a little bit about the different demographics of your EL students?
Sure. So most of our students are permanent residents or of the United States. So most of them were born here in the United States, but we do have a population of transient students who are here for a variety of reasons. We have a lot of students who come to participate in a program with Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and those students are from like Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, and either they or their siblings are here to receive treatment for usually some type of cancer, but also other pretty serious medical reasons. So that can be very difficult because you're dealing with a student who's very sick, and so we provide homebound services, or just the trauma of their brother or sister being very ill. So that can be interesting. And then also we have Northern Kentucky University here, just right down the street, a couple of miles. And so some of our students are here because their parents are students at NKU, or their parents are professors or instructors at NKU.
So you have a really diverse group
of
students here.
We do.
Very diverse. So what exactly does Klein do for their ESL students? What are they good at? What are they not good at?
So our teachers at Klein are really great at making all of their students feel welcome in their classroom. My role is kind of new. This is, I've been in this role, I'm starting my third year. Before I came to Campbell County, there was somebody in this role for 2 years, but previous to that, we contracted with the co-op, the Northern Kentucky Cooperative for Educational Services.
So Campbell County having their own EL teacher is a 5-year-old
very
position.
New. Yes, it's
okay.
5 years old. So before I came, Klein has always had the most EL students in the district. There were many teachers trained in SIAP. They actually went through the training, and that's been a long time ago now.
Right.
So some of those teachers are still left and are still doing those things. But, as we get new teachers in, we train new teachers on what they need to do.
Okay.
So we train our teachers for what they need to do in the classroom, and we also pull out students that we identify as needing pull-out services. So.
Okay, that's great. And then my last real question for you is, you're actually not the EL teacher for Klein specifically, you're the EL teacher for Campbell County.
Correct.
And I know that you have one paraeducator who works with you, and between the two of you, you cover all the students within this district.
Correct.
So how does having to cover the entire district limit your ability to really focus specifically on a school in particular?
It limits it a lot because I can't be everywhere, and also have to take time to do the not so much fun roles of my job, like the paperwork and all of those things. So actually finding that time to work with students can be very difficult because I am all over the county, and figuring in drive time from school to school just something that I learned really early. Like I can't get from one school to the other in like 5 minutes. And also my paraeducator is only half time. So it's really me and half a person trying to do everything. And she's a great paraeducator, but she is not an ESL certified teacher. So that also even though she's wonderful, she, is missing some of those critical pieces.
Limits her ability
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I want to focus specifically on Klein because that's what we've been talking about. And I have worked to put together, I know we can't see it in the video, but we have my laptop out here and we have the improvement plan pulled up on it. And so just some suggestions that could be implemented in Klein over the next year or couple of years to help maybe your ELL population and maybe help your teachers some when you're not necessarily in the building and at immediate contact for them. So in terms of academic and language development, we were talking a little before this video about L1 and L2, and so providing students this ability to see things in their new language and their old language. And so while I know from working with you you have some great resources down here, we also have the ability, to use like Google Translate. We have the internet these days that would be great for these teachers to use. Are your teachers very technology savvy around here?
Some are. So I will give you an example of actually one of our other elementary schools, Grand Slick Elementary. We did have a third grade student who was adopted from China, and she actually was not literate in L1. So so we did use Google Translate to translate all of the some of the text for her that they were reading in class. And then we discovered that she couldn't read those, and her adoptive parents weren't sure either because we didn't have very good records from her orphanage. Yeah, so that teacher was very proactive, and we sat down and we would translate to Google Translate and then record as it was reading out loud so that student could listen. But that's one teacher and one example. Not all of our teachers do that, not necessarily because they don't want to, but maybe because they don't know how or they don't have the time to do that. Like that teacher kind of went above and beyond.
Right.
Our teachers are good about, we have iPads that we give to our students, and they're good about letting them have that iPad with them so that they can use Google Translate themselves. For upper elementary and above, it's really great. Sometimes for kindergarten and first grade,
it can
be a little difficult. But and then of course, like our middle school and high school students are generally already proficient with those things and already have their own devices. So if that's needed, our teachers are really good about letting the student take that initiative and do that. But definitely some more training for the teachers would be very beneficial.
Because here in the state of Kentucky, we don't require any ESL training for our teachers.
No, we do not.
So unless they've done it as something like me or you as an endorsement on our masters, it's nothing they're going to get unless they happen to go to a co-op.
Right. Exactly. And I will say too, like our district is really great about, like I provide professional development for our teachers, and even if it's very last minute. So another example at another elementary school, we all of a sudden last year had a whole family of newcomers move in, and here at Klein, where historically they've had the most EL students, they're always a little bit more prepared for that, but it was new for this particular elementary school. So the district was great and arranged for all of the teachers to have subs, and they just spent the day with me, and we talked about strategies so that they were a little more confident. And that they could get a little bit of PD, and then I, of course, check back with them throughout the year, and it was more job embedded PD after that, but we were able to at least spend the day together, which isn't perfect, but it's something.
And at least Campbell County was supportive in allowing that to happen.
Yes, but more training for our teachers would be amazing.
Okay. And so then the other thing about academic and language development is looking at everything is very standards driven these days in the classroom, and our ELL students are held to those same standards that we hold our mainstream children to. And so it's very important that these teachers are very specific in how they teach these students. So for example, they could teach them all the content required by a standard, but if that standard asks them to describe and they've never taught that student what the word describes means, they won't be able to complete that standard.
Right.
And so do you think your teachers have a lot of training in doing things like that?
Not so much geared towards ELL students, I will say. The work of Rick Stiggins with Castle several years ago did kind of prepare teachers for deconstructing their standards and writing those learning targets and making sure that students understood the learning target a little bit better. So I think that was not just good for our our native English speakers, but that's good for all students, which is kind of like, I wish I could write that on a chalkboard and just wear it around my neck. Like, what I'm telling you is good for all students. But,
right.
So, somewhat, yes. However, like, we often need to go even further with our EL students, and even if we're talking a little bit more about what those verbs like analyze and describe mean with all of our students, it's probably not the first time our native English speakers have seen those, where it could be the first time our EL students have seen those words. So I don't know.
And really that all goes back to training still.
Yeah.
Is they've never taken an ESL class, so they don't understand necessarily the needs of these students.
Yeah. So probably they're better at the middle and high school level, because I push it a little bit more at those levels than here at the elementary level.
Right.
Like, we probably need to focus on that a little more. So it's a great suggestion.
Thank you. And then the last thing is language standards, and being very intentional in not only are these students needing to meet the academic standards set by the state of Kentucky, but they're looking to accomplish reading, listening, speaking, and what am I missing? Writing in English for the first time.
Right.
And so making sure that those teachers that are working with EL students are also being very intentional in setting almost a second set of standards for them in their classroom.
Yes.
And that these students are working towards meeting those.
Right. And that's hopefully where their program service plans come into play. And sometimes it takes more reminding, like, hey, this student has this goal too, how can we accomplish that? But yes, definitely that's a great part of your improvement plan. Because we really need to focus on those goals for those students too.
Okay. And so I'm going to kind of move us a little bit a different direction and take us to kind of how culturally responsive the school is. And so they can't see it on the video, but behind us over here, you have flags from various countries hung up. When I walked in the front door, I didn't necessarily see anything like that coming in.
Right.
And so just working to maybe make our school look a little bit more culturally diverse for these students, make sure they know that they're welcome, their culture is welcome. In the classroom, could the teachers have some sort of language and cultural studies as part of their social studies curriculum? Anything to, remind these students that their culture is an asset in this school, not a disability.
Absolutely. I think that's great. And I won't say that no teacher does that, because there are teachers throughout the district who do a great job of that. But yeah, as a school, like you said, my room is really the only place where there are multiple cultures represented, and different, I'm pointing, I know you can't see on the video, but like, different holidays, and it really, when especially newcomers come into my room, they're kind of drawn to those things to point out, which holidays they celebrate, or what words they recognize, or flags they recognize around the room. So it doesn't seem like much, but it's just a great way for students to know, like, somebody cares about me enough to hang this up or to have this available for me. And then they like to tell what they do.
Right.
So if they celebrate Ramadan, they'd like to tell us about Ramadan. So yes, I think that as a school, we could definitely do a better job of making our school a little more culturally welcome.
And then could we be a little bit more responsive to maybe the parents? And right now, a lot of information goes home in English only. So, if a parent doesn't read English at home, they're not going to get that information about the family night that's next week, or, the book fair is coming next month, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And in fact, if they came to pick up their student, the sign out front says ring the buzzer in English. So if they couldn't read English, they might think we were trying to lock them out.
Exactly. Yeah, so, we do have, it's not a perfect system. We subscribe to something called Transact that gives us a lot of, like, generic forms in multiple languages about, like, field trips and how much lunch costs and all of those types of things. But those are hard to customize, and let them, even if you say we're going on a field trip, there's a lot of information that we still need to communicate about that field trip that I can't necessarily translate. It's not, I won't say easy, but it's much easier to find somebody to translate things into Spanish for us than it is like into Arabic. So yes, stuff going home in other languages is definitely a goal that
we should be working
on. Yeah.
And then the last big thing I want to talk about is collaboration across your school. You've talked about it a little bit in the different trainings that you provide the teachers. You're able to provide them resources. They have accesses to the different learning plans for their students. Do you help them modify lessons if they ask for it?
Yes. So, finding a time for training is definitely a big focus, because teachers, I mean, realistically do have a lot that they do, and they already have a lot of trainings that they're required to go to. And because we have such a small EL population here at Klein, you know, a teacher might only have one EL student in their classroom, which doesn't negate the fact that they need training for that one student, but also can be difficult, you know, when you're trying to find a time to plan a full training or time to meet with that teacher. I don't want to say like teachers don't want to just focus on that one student, because that sounds horrible, and that's not at all what they, you know, how they act. But I also know that they just have a lot to do. You know, they have a lot going on. So it's difficult to find a time sometimes for those trainings that still need to happen, and they want that training. I mean, they say to me like, it'd be great if we could like have a PD, and I'm like, I know, but when are we gonna do it? Yes, that's a great focus for us, you know, working on when those trainings are going to happen, and how best to give out resources. And we've experimented with a few things like professional libraries in different schools, and our district this year has adopted Google Drive district-wide, and everybody's
that was actually going to be my recommendation, is how much easier Google Drive would make it to share. Like, we can't all meet for professional development, but we can post a video with some information, and you can watch it on your own time.
Great suggestion. So figuring out a way, you know, to get that out, and making those resources more available to teachers.
Starting that platform.
Yes.
And then, you know, teachers, your mainstream teachers probably spend the majority of the day with these students. For sure, especially at the primary school level. But you still have your administration and your other school staff within this community here that also need to make sure that they're being trained on this. And again, that Google Drive could very easily include them, and, you know, how do cafeteria workers make sure that they're being culturally responsive to diets, to how do administration make sure that they're being culturally responsive to students and families.
And I think, you know, it's a great, we're going to take your suggestion. We're going to do that, and it's kind of getting everybody on board with checking Google Drive and like looking for this resource before you like wait until you can talk to me, because, you know, sometimes that's a thing. Like sometimes I'll see a teacher in the hallway, and they're like, oh, I'm glad you're here, I had this question, and they maybe could have found the answer a week ago. You know, if they look at something like Google Drive and they have those resources. So yes, good suggestion.
And then the last big thing I'm going to ask you about is, you currently use the pull-out model in Campbell County. A lot of it going back to the idea that there is really 1.5 of you to cover the entire Campbell County district. So you seem to find it the most like reliable way to meet with students. And I know that you pull them based on their WIDA scores and kind of prioritize the lower students, and then just kind of monitor your higher performing students. So this method is working for you all right now. How, quotes?
It's working with what, you know, with the manpower that we have. It works as well as it can. I, as the certified teacher, pull the newcomers. So I make, so at the end of last year, we ended the year with 4 newcomers. So I made sure that I saw those students on a regular basis, and I like to see them every day for a while. And then depending on the student, and how well they're doing, and I have a conference with their teacher and sometimes their parents about kind of setting up a schedule of maybe 3 times a week, but I like to start with them every day, and pull out, and then my paraeducator pulls other students from here and 2 other elementary schools. So she's also at, across the, not as widely across the district, but she does work at 3 elementary schools. So like you said, yes, we start with our lowest students.
So then the recommendation here is going to be, since you see these students for such short periods of time, being very intentional with what goes on in the classroom. I know we talked about at the middle and high school, you feel more like a tutor sometimes, helping students with maybe what they're not understanding in class, or like
just pass the class.
Like what work they can't seem to accomplish in the amount of time, whether that's, you know, time management system problem or a language problem. And then being very intentional about following language standards in here for the elementary school at Klein. And so making sure that, you know, if you're only going to see them for 1 hour a week, that pull-out time is very intentional towards meeting their goals.
That is a great suggestion. Thank you.
And so if you have any last thoughts. If not, I just want to thank you so much for meeting with me and allowing me to kind of look at Klein, and let me put these suggestions in here for you all to maybe look at doing in the future.
Thank you for these suggestions. You did a great job.
Thank you.